How's everybody doing? Awesome. We've had a good week. We've had a good couple of weeks. I think the guys have prepared hard. We've practiced hard in Seattle. We've been really focused being down here. And the Rose Bowl has been tremendous in terms of the events that we've got to be part of, and everything just completely first class. And it's very apparent why everybody raves about being at this bowl game. It's been a really good week.
Can you talk a little bit about Ohio State and what you've seen from them, both offense and defense?
Yeah, one of the elite programs in the country, without question. You know, they throw for a bunch of yards, but I think the thing that makes them so special on offense is how balanced they really are. And so, with really good players, you know, excellent scheme, coached well, and on defense, you know, I think they're physical, they're athletic, do enough stuff to keep you off balance blitz-wise, and you know, we knew from the start, even without putting the tape on, what we'd probably getting ourselves into, and you know, Urban does a great job with that whole program.
Coach, Oregon and Cal, a couple of tough losses, sort of had a down through the season, but you guys came back strong. Did Oregon and Cal make you stronger?
You know, the season's there's always struggles during the season. You know, I've been part of undefeated seasons, and there's just hard things that go through any season, and certainly any good season. We try to prepare our guys for that. And so this one's really been no different. We did have a couple tough losses, frustrating losses. And I say this all the time, if you don't play your best in this league, you're going to get beat, or you're going to get exposed in a hurry. And, you know, the kids played hard in those games, but we probably didn't play our very best. And if you don't, that's what happens. So I'm proud of the guys in terms of they never flinched. We just went back to work. You know, 1 week, 1 day at a time mentality, and that's really what they did. And, you know, here we are.
Chris, what can you say about Urban Meyer and any interaction you've had with him or crossing paths and things
Yeah.
as far as the coaching influence?
Well, I certainly think first and foremost, his record speaks for itself wherever he's been. He's just knows how to win. He knows how to run a program his way and his style, and does a great job with it. And then I have had a chance to kind of interact with him over the years, and you know, I think he's really on top of it. I mean, just in terms of like what he tries to do with his program culturally, and with his, you know, some of his coaches and those type of things, and the different speakers that he's had, and real life Wednesdays, and all those type of things. I mean, I think that's what college is all about. I mean, you're talking our language all the way, and he's done some really nice things along the way, and at Ohio State with those things that, you know, I've got bits and pieces from. I mean, that's kind of how you do it as a coach. I mean, we're not making this stuff up. I mean, there's been a lot of smarter people than me going before and doing these things, and so what just makes sense to me in our program, I try to take bits and pieces from, and certainly done that from Urban.
Coach, is there a team that you faced this year that compares to Ohio State's team?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I think when you go through the course of the season, you're going to see some teams that, you know, line up similar to. There's only so many ways you can line up, so there hadn't been too many teams where we're like, we've never seen this before. But now everybody has their wrinkles to keep you off balance, the different blitzes and stems and those type of things. Everybody has a little uniqueness to them, and certainly Ohio State does. I think you couple that with the players that they have, you know, certainly makes this a unique defense and a unique team that we haven't seen before.
And what kind of threat is Dwayne Haskins pose? Obviously, we know deep ball, but is there anything specifically about his game that you guys really need to key in on?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just, you know, obviously one of the top QBs in the country, and he's mobile enough to keep you off balance, to buy time. I think he sees the field really well, and the ball comes out quickly. I think he's got a really good cast around him too. You know, it always starts in the lines, But then he's got an experienced group of receivers that are sprinkled around, and those guys are playmakers.
Coach, was any part of the coaching bent to kind of bring the kids down as far as the mystique and size of the Rose Bowl, and maybe their thoughts that the other team is going to leave it all on the field for Urban? Do you have to calm that down?
No, we don't ever worry about the opponent. This is always about us. You know, we take care of what we can control, making sure that, you know, our energy's right and not too high, not too low, that we prepared right, that we go out and try to put our best foot forward. But to us, it's never about the other guys. It's always about us doing what we can do.
Coach, what's it mean for you to play the coach in the road?
Yeah. You know, I've had an opportunity to go to a lot of different bowl games, and I've never been to this one. But this is the one I did watch as a kid growing up. This is the one, and we've been close a couple times in my career, really close, and we have not got here. So again, you know, kind of alluding to one of the questions, I mean, it means a lot because how hard it is to get here, some of the hard things that we went through this season to get here, you know, my hat's really off to these kids for making this happen.
What is it about the matchup on Tuesday that prompts people to watch this game?
Well, you know, I think that it's, you know, I know Ohio State's one of those elite programs. And, you know, I think when we, you know, are playing like we're capable of playing, we can play some pretty good football too. And I just think this game and the teams that are in it might be an intriguing matchup.
What makes it intriguing? Just two good teams?
Yeah, I think that. I mean, I always think the Rose Bowl is intriguing. You're not going to have bad teams in the Rose Bowl. And so, and just everything that surrounds it, you know, the pageantry of college football. You know, that's what I really kind of think about this bowl game. And it's always going to be two good teams in here and kids playing really hard.
And the historic aspects of it, I mean, you know, it's the oldest of the bowls, that granddaddy of the bowls. Does it mean, is it still, I know it's not in the rotation this year, it's every 3 years it's in the rotation. What does it mean to be in this Rose Bowl?
Well, I mean, from where I come from, you know, there's nothing bigger, nothing better. And I mean that from where I grew up, and I mean that in Seattle as well, you know, because so many of the longtime Huskies, this is how they grew up. You know, this is where they wanted Washington at all times, and certainly now there's the playoffs. But this is what everybody talks about, and so it's awesome to be here.
Chris, Mark Richt announced his retirement today. What are your initial reactions to that?
Yeah, I think there's always surprising twists and turns in this job in football. You know, I think he does a heck of a job throughout his career, and I don't know him personally, but I followed him, and seems like a wonderful person, and you know, tries to do right by the kids and all those type of things. And so I think anytime you see a really good guy, you know, getting out of it, you know, you're a little bit bummed out about that. But who knows? You know, sometimes the guys just need a break and catch their breath, and you never know what the future holds.
Chris, Ohio State's defense has been susceptible to give up some big, huge plays this year, gash plays, especially in the running game. I know you're not going to give me any secrets, et cetera, but what have you noticed about this from a defensive standpoint? What do you think has led to that?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think it's kids making plays. I always say this, like everybody has good, you know, everybody we play has good coaches and players too, and they're going to make plays. And so, you know, at the end of the day, it's about winning the game. Ohio State's won a heck of a lot of games in convincing fashion. And I always say, I mean, it's hard to, you know, just lose one game. And you see very few that have lost no games. But those guys, you know, are talked about that they could be in that you know, that playoff system. And so, you know, it's never going to be perfect. I mean, that's what I think. But I think they got a heck of a defense.
Down the road, should there be a playoff system that includes every, I think you talked about this before, but every Power 5 conference champion? What is your thought about it now as you've seen, like the Big Ten, 2 straight years, the conference champion hadn't been in it?
Yeah.
You guys?
Yeah, I don't know. I think most want it expanded. You know, I mean, I think that would be really cool for college football, and there's a lot of logistics to be able to work out and a lot of politics to have to plow through without question, and all that's hard. But, you know, I think in the big grand scheme of things, I think a lot of people would like to see some more teams. Now, whether it's the conference champions, I don't know about all that. Those are details that could be worked out. But, you know, I think it's intriguing, you know, how this thing would shake down with more teams.
Yeah, you've talked about this before. I mean, it goes to 8 teams. I mean, everybody talks about this 3 extra games. Well, it's only 3 extra games for 2 teams.
Right. It is for only 2 teams.
Yeah.
And so, you know, and you can expand it. I mean, we're the only, you know, division that doesn't play a big expanded tournament. Now, the one thing you probably have to do if you're going to put a bunch of teams in there is I mean, this is probably the sticking point, is you probably got to cut down a regular season game. But, you know, everything comes down to money. What are we kidding ourselves, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. But you play a big tournament like that, there's going to be enough money for everybody to cut the pie the same way. And now maybe you get, you know, some of the matchups you want to see. I don't know.
You talk about a bigger pie of money. Do you think players have a right to any of that? Should they come to that?
Yeah, that's always an interesting, you know, topic. You know, I think, you know, I think that's what pro football's for. I think we try to treat these guys as well as we can. I think we, you know, pay for their education. We make sure these kids aren't going to college and living in poverty. You know, I know it's changed in the last handful of years that we can feed them how we need to feed them. Like that has been a huge thing. I mean, that's all these guys do is eat. We couldn't feed them like we wanted to. Cost of living and all those things. And so, you know, some of that stuff I think is still to be debated and talked about.
When you say it's for pro football, what do you think the downside would be if, you know, if these guys got an extra $15 or $20 or something like that?
Well,
It's not life changing, but it's still for them.
I think you're going to change the game. Like, I think there's certain programs that could maybe afford to do some of that stuff, and I think there's certain programs that you might just change the playing field.
So it'd be a competitive equity thing in the sport more than.
I think that's probably. I've spent about as much time thinking about this as your question coming to me, because that's for somebody with a higher pay grade than me. So I'm kind of just talking out loud here. Yeah.
Chris, there were quite a few stars, you know, who are headed for the NFL, opted not to play.
Yeah.
Which I think all your guys are playing, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, from what you know. But what's just your opinion of that? I mean, of guys opting to sit it out from the jeopardy standpoint. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I like to see them play. I mean, it's football, and yeah, anything can happen, but you're going to play a lot of football in the future. And I think the risk-reward thing is so small that, you know, to go out with your team, but that's just my opinion.
Did you have to sit down with any of your guys who are in that boat and have that discussion this year?
No.
Coach, my name is Steve Artian, for photography and writing. So our audience are young people, and what would be your keys to success for young people? We try to inspire them to stay off of drugs and addiction.
Yeah. Well, there's no question about that. You know, we see the drug culture changing lives even where we are on college campuses. We spend a ton of time talking about that. I mean, it's in everybody's face. It doesn't matter where you are, on the streets, in colleges, at work. And, I mean, all you have to do is pay attention to the research, and it ruins lives in the snap of the fingers. I mean, it all starts small, and all of a sudden you end up, how did I end up in this place? So I think that's probably a good place to start. But, you know, I think you got to, you know, a lot of these kids just need to have a vision and some hope and some mentors around them to encourage them. And I think one of the main things is guys trying to figure out what they really want to do in life, which is one of the hardest things that our guys have to figure out. I think that's one of the hardest things anybody has to figure out. Very passionate about football and those type of things, but, you know, what about life after football, which is going to be for most of these guys in the snap of a finger. And so those are some of the things that we try to talk about all the time in our program.
Urban Meyer's talked about his friendship with you. Could you kind of explain where that developed and what you think of it?
Yeah, it's just, you know, way back, I think he just got to Utah, and I think I bumped into him at a high school, and didn't know him from anybody, and kind of enjoyed our conversation, and then watched him at Utah, and we've always kind of crossed paths. And then I got a chance to go back there. Spent a couple days when I first actually came to Washington, and I think there's some really interesting things he does with his program culturally, and that he's trying to help these kids besides the football part of things that I thought was really intriguing, and really appreciated his mindset on it.
What do you think is his legacy? Assuming that he does retire and
Yeah.
come back, what does he mean to college football?
Yeah, I think his record speaks for itself. The guy knows how to win. He's got his way of doing things. I always say this, there's a bunch of different ways to skin the cat, but you got to have your way and know the strengths and weaknesses and, incorporate it into your style, your personality, and he has done that. And it has worked, at an elite level.
Chris, you think your quarterback gets a bad rap because everybody's looking ahead to, your scout team quarterback who transferred in, trying to compare him to 2 years ago. It kind of seems like from fans in the media, he's not getting as good.
I think unfortunately it's the world we live in. It's always what's the next thing. That is social media. That is the media world. It's like what's the next best thing. Everything's blown out of proportion for the most part. Expectations are out of whack. We live in the too much, too soon syndrome. And it messes kids up. These expectations and so much success so early, and guys haven't had to persevere and work through hard things, and it can always be better. And to me, that's almost fantasy land. It's not the world we live in. So I don't know about that. I just know that we appreciate Jake as much as anybody. The kid does everything right. There's no harder worker on our team. There's nobody that's been through more, persevered, stayed steady. He's just done it the way it's supposed to be done. And life is hard, like football is hard. And he hasn't flinched. He's won a bunch of games. His teammates really love him. We love him. And I don't know what there else is to say about him. So, we talk to our guys all the time, and I'm paying attention to that outside noise. That's just noise to us. And we make our own opinions, and we talk to one another. And if it's good enough, awesome. If it's not, we try to make corrections and go forward. But everybody, it's a lot easier from the outside having a lot of answers when you're not in the fight every day.
How much too is it just your offense the past couple of years has evolved? You had a couple game-breaking receivers and Ross and Pettis, and now with Miles and what he's been able to do with the running game and balance.
And so if you're not scoring the points that you want, there's always a few the guns are going to be pointed in certain directions. The head coach, coordinators, the quarterback always is going to, it's a lot of times when it's all good, you're going to get too much credit. When it's not really good, you're going to get too much blame. There's a lot of guys around him that got to do the right things. And, we've done some really good things this year on offense. We probably just, the most important thing that's been frustrating thing to all of us is haven't scored the points that we think we're capable of scoring.
Fiesta, Boise State, Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You want that game back on Tuesday, or do you want more?
What's that?
You want that game back for Tuesday? Or
No, yeah.
you want more of a spread in points?
It doesn't matter. However you can play your best football, that's how we want it. Yeah.
That was a great game.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, guys.
Thank you, guys.